morning are excited to announce we're starting a brand new series. The title of the series is Fearless. It's going to be about the life of the prophet Elijah from the Old Testament. But the thing about being fearless, I just want you to understand something. I know that it's impossible for us to absolutely live without any fear 100%. Because fear sometimes can get you out of trouble. I mean, God has put fear within us, to keep us from getting hurt sometimes. Sometimes things happen and the fear kicks in and that saves our life sometimes. So I'm not saying that you don't not ever afraid of anything. So, even though it may be impossible to be fearless, but you can fear less, if that makes sense. Because, I want us to understand that there's a difference between doubt and fear. Everybody thinks that, not everybody, but lots of people think that if someone has some doubts, I remember going to church and growing up, and I heard this, and I understand what the preacher meant by this. He said, if you have 1% doubt, then that means you're 100% lost. I heard that over and over again growing up. I understand the concept of what the preacher was saying, but I think that sometimes we misconstrue that because really at the whole heart of our faith, there's a struggle with doubt. I see that all through the Bible. The faith isn't just something that's just totally removed from doubt. I mean, sometimes that doubt is what pulls us into a deeper faith. But when we're afraid, when we're fearful, see now there's sometimes in our life we have situations that we come in, circumstances we walk into our life where we're very fearful of the outcome. You see, because God has given us the ability to project into the future. Use our imagination, which is a wonderful thing. To be able to project in the future and think about what's going to happen next month, or next year, or next week, or what's going to happen tomorrow. But what's such a beautiful thing, see, that can give us hope. I mean, some of you sitting in here right now, you are very hopeful of heaven. That's something that God has given you the ability to do. That's a wonderful thing. But then the bad side of being able to project ourselves into the future is sometimes we get stressed out and we get afraid of what's going to happen in the future. And that's where that whole thing kind of messes with us sometimes, because this many people in here, I know that some of you right now, you are stressed out and you are worried about what's going to happen in the future. And that's what we're talking about. That's what we say, the fearless. See, you don't have to be fearful about the future if you know that God has got you in His hands. You know that He's got a hold of your future. Now, when we talk about having fears, we've got to understand that having fears, there's have phobias. That's whenever our fears are kind of irrational. That's a phobia, I've recognized that within my genetics, I'll see my children, my grandchildren, within my genetics, we all have a good, healthy fear of snakes. That's biblical, by the way, because when Moses throws down his staff and turns into a snake, what does he do? He runs, right? So it's biblical to be afraid of snakes. I mean, I've seen my grandchildren never be exposed to a snake, and they see a snake and they try to run away from it because, okay, that's a good thing. I mean, I remember one day, when I find a snake out in the yard, I'm afraid of snakes, but I don't have a phobia, so I'll go get the snake. If it's poisonous, I kill it first, and then I pick it up. Which one time I did that with copperhead, it wasn't dead after I picked it up. I realized that's another story. But anyway, one time I saw a grass snake and I was alive. And I thought, well, I just picked a grass snake up. It wasn't like it was a massive grass snake like this. It was a little grass snake. And I thought, well, I'll go show it to Armani and ask them so I can show them the difference between how you tell between a poisonous and a non-poisonous snake. So I pick up the grass snake and I'm walking across the yard with it. And the grass snake just turns around and just latches right onto my hand. And just out of instinct, I just, whoo, just threw it right down. And I realized that grass snake did not have the ability, didn't have any teeth. It did not even have enough strength to break the skin. And I thought, why did I throw the grass snake down? But then I realized the reason I threw it down is because I still have my sanity. That's a good thing. So don't come in here this morning and say, don't hear me and say if you're afraid of anything that there's something wrong with that, because that's not what I'm saying at all. And we look at this whole series on fearless to understand that we're talking about especially projecting yourself and being worried, anxious about your job, your finances in the future, your children, all of these things, your health. There's so many things, so many times that we become anxious and it changes our heart rate, the chemicals in our brain. We get all nervous and it's not a good thing. So that's what we're talking about this morning. Our culture today that we live in, I know that in regards to what happened just this past Sunday. There's a lot of people that thought that there would be fewer people in church this morning, but I believe there's going to be more people in church this morning. Amen. As a result of what happened. Anytime the church is pushed to the fringes, the church grows. We have a problem with our Bible Belt Christianity because the Christianity that I've grown up with here in America, we have Christianized everything to the point to where now we don't even really know what is Christian and what is non-Christian, what is real Christian and what is non-Christian. I mean, back in the 40s and 50s, if somebody was going to have a business, a thriving business, let's just say in Canton, Texas, then that man knew that he needed to be a member of the First Baptist and the First Methodist Church, because if he was something, he wasn't an upstanding member of the town, and nobody's going to let him work on their cars or fix their air conditioner or anything like that, because he wasn't a member of the church. And so we've taken this Americanized thing and we turned it into Christianity, and now we think, just if I go to church, if I'm a member of the church, that's all that matters. And that's so far from what real Christianity really is. I mean, real Christianity is a vibrant, real relationship with Jesus. It's discipleship. Somewhere we missed out and lost this and dropped this. So, I mean, this morning as we come in here, as we talk about this, let's just set this precedent to understand something. As we look at the life of Elijah, Israel was in a mess. We look at America today, and listen, things aren't great. Things are pretty much a mess here in America. But what does that do to us in our faith? Does it draw us closer to Jesus, or do we just get to the point where we just throw our hands up and be like, well, that's just the way it is, and just totally check out? We can't do that. We've got to check in. See, listen, I want you to understand something. I need you to help me. I need you to help me to check in to what real Christianity is, to what it means to be a member of a real, live, thriving church. What it means, I mean, for people to walk into a church today and say, this is what Jesus meant when he called out the church in the world. And so we fully, rightly, properly exhibit that and live that here in this building. All right, I'm ready to start preaching now. Taking way too much time on this. So, 1 Kings chapter 17. This is what I want to talk to you about. The man Elijah. It says, I mean, all of a sudden, you're reading your Bible and you come to 1 Kings chapter 17, verse 1, and this man Elijah, he just drops out of nowhere. I mean, where does he come from? Nobody knows. We don't know anything about his family. We don't know anything about his background. But all of a sudden, day one here in what we're reading about Elijah, he steps on the scene, and it says, now Elijah the Tishbite. Sounds like a healthy cracker that doesn't taste good, doesn't it? Tishbite. Now Elijah the Tishbite of Tishbe in Gilead said to Ahab. And here's what I know. Nobody knows anything about Tishbe, but they know about Gilead. Gilead was a mountainous country that was rough. If you lived there, then you were raising your crops or you are raising your animals. You had to work hard every single day of your life. So here's the situation I want you to understand. No one from Gilead who made a living was soft, tender, or easy. They were rugged, mountaintop men. So this man, Elijah, you've heard about him, the leather belt and the camel fur. I mean, he was like, this dude was a man's man. He had long beard, lots of wild. I mean, like, when you saw him, most people would be like, ooh. That's the kind of projection this man made. So we've got Elijah stepping on the scene, the prophet of God. But I want to go back just a little bit. Chapter 16. He steps into Ahab's palace. Now how many of y'all have got children named Ahab or grandchildren named Ahab? What about Jezebel? Does no one have any grandkids or grandchildren named Jezebel? There's a good reason why. Because in the Bible, these are the most wicked king and queen that's all throughout all of the Old Testament kings and queens. Ahab, you see, he was a great, all the way to the 7th, 8th generation behind David and Solomon. Right after David had the kingdom unified, Solomon came in. He had the kingdom unified, but his son, the kingdom split. The kingdom of Israel split. You've got the 10 tribes of the north. That's regarded as Israel. And then you got the 2 tribes of the south. That's considered Judah. So now, Ahab is the king of Israel, the 10 northern tribes. And here's what the situation is. Every generation after David and Solomon got worse and worse and worse. The kings got worse, and the culture got worse. See, some of you are sitting in here right now, and you've seen 2 and 3 and 4 generations of your family here in North America here in East Texas, and you're saying our culture is getting worse and worse and worse with every generation. But listen, I'll tell you something. Our culture may be getting worse, but I've got some good news for you today. Christianity is getting stronger. Listen, I'm not saying the church is getting stronger. I'm saying the real deal Christianity. Among our millennials, there is an uprising of the real deal in Christianity, and I'm excited about that. We've got a whole bunch of them that go to church right here sitting around you right now, and I'm thrilled to be here and for them to be in that building with me right now. So I've got hope. I've got hope this morning. Somebody should say amen right there. Amen. That's a good spot. You're doing great. But Ahab, the son of Omri, did what was evil in the Lord's sight even more than any of the kings before him. And as though it were not enough to follow the sinful example of Jeroboam, who was a king before him, he married Jezebel, the daughter of King Ethbaal. Now, Baal worship, if you know anything about your Bible, that goes all the way through your Bible. Anytime somebody was involved in Baal worship, it was not a good thing. Jezebel's father was a priest of the whole Baal religion. So she was raised up right there in the temple, watching her father doing all the evil things that was involved with prostitution, child sacrifice, everything. She was right there, right in the middle of it. And here's what Ahab does. He marries her because it says right here that she was Ethbaal of the Sidonians. So what he's doing by marrying her is he's trying to bring peace between two differing countries right here. Okay? So, and he began to bow down, and he also, now you see this, you say, no, wait a second, that's not really that big of a deal. All he's doing is he's walking into a temple, and he's bowing down, and he's been bowing down to what is called an Asheroth pole. The Asherah, that is the female part of the whole Baal worship, okay? So you can say, really, that's no big deal for him to go in there and to bow a knee. But it was much more than him just bowing a knee. You see, because whenever he was involved in Baal worship, here's what happened. He got involved in the whole prostitution, the whole child sacrifice, all of those evil things. So now we've got the king of Israel who is his job is to represent and to lead the nation in worshiping God. He now is involved in Baal worship. And this is where our man Elijah comes on the scene. Now, Ephesians chapter 6, verse 11 through 12, here's what I want to lay out before you this morning, before we get very far into our study this morning at all. You got to understand something. Whenever Elijah is battling it out with Jezebel and Ahab, his problem is not Jezebel. Elijah's problem is not Ahab. See, because some of you right now, you're like, I know Jezebel. Because I mean, if you go all the way into Revelation, it talks about a Jezebel spirit. Some of y'all, you're like, I'm very